Good morning. I'm Douglas Lezamera, host of CCC Noticias. Welcome to today's roundtable of candidates who are running for California State Assembly District 16. Assembly District 16 is located in the East Bay. It consists of suburbs east of the Berkeley Hills, including La Morinda, the Tri-Valley, and all of Walnut Creek. Today's roundtable is sponsored by the Contra Costa County Election Divisions, the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley, and West Contra Costa County, and Contra Costa Television, with support from the cities of Eniac, Concord, and Walnut Creek. We are recording today's roundtable live at the Contra Costa Television studios in Martinez. The candidates participating are Joseph Rubey and Rebecca Bauer-Kahan. Prior of today's program, the candidates drew lots to decide their speaking order. We will begin with Joseph.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. And I, like Assembly Member Rebecca mentioned, it is so important that when we go to vote, that we do a little research and find things like this to study and review. It basically happens, for the president every 4 years, but for assembly, it's every 2 years. And every 2 years, I think it's important to get out there and find out who you like to vote for. And I just want to say my name again is Joseph Rubey, and it's a pleasure for me to be here.
Thank you, Joseph. Rebecca?
Thank you so much. I want to start by thanking you and CCTV and the League of Women Voters for doing this, and Mr. Rubey for coming and joining me for this conversation. It is so important, as Mr. Rubey said, for voters to be informed and have the best information about who they're voting for. So I want to thank all of you for watching as well. It's been an honor to serve you for the last 6 years in the Assembly, and I'm here to ask you to continue supporting me so I can keep doing the work that I do every day in Sacramento, whether that's showing up every single day to represent the values of this district, to protect our communities, to fight for our kids' future, whether that's education or climate change. It has been an honor, and I want to keep doing it.
Thank you so much. So let's start with the questions.
Okay.
Whether people like it or not, refineries have a significant presence in Contra Costa County. How would you balance the economic and environment impacts of further regulating this industry?
Yes, Contra Costa County, and actually our district, which is mostly in Contra Costa County, refineries and the oil industry are very, very big. And some late news, we used to have the headquarters of Chevron in our district. Just a few years ago, when Chevron was at its top in San Ramon, almost 1 to 4 people, it seemed like, worked or knew somebody that worked for Chevron. And I think to help that industry, we have to be aware of things like the EV mandate that the governor suggested and the legislature passed. When we have an EV mandate that talks about having only selling electric cars in 2035, the companies like Chevron, the oil industry in total, has to prepare for that. And it puts a big, big burden on them, starting today, to prepare for the changes that may occur. So my position is that when we make decisions like that, we have to think of the oil industry and how it affects them in the long term.
Thank you, Joseph. Rebecca?
Thank you. You're right. The oil industry has been a huge producer of good living wages here in Contra Costa, and that is not something that we should take lightly. That being said, we have a climate crisis. We know that firsthand with the wildfires that are right here in our own community. And so we both need to protect our community's incomes and fight climate change with everything we've got. And California has led on that. And I'm proud of the oil companies that are coming along with us, because some are. Some are starting to produce clean aviation fuel. That will be the last thing we can decarbonize, is our airplanes. And so producing cleaner fuel for that is a huge step forward in the climate crisis. So is hydrogen. So is carbon capture. And that's what we need to be working with our employers to do, to work with us to move climate forward to a cleaner California. I will note that California has led the nation on fighting the climate crisis, and we've seen an increase in our jobs numbers. So we can do both. We can protect this environment and planet for our kids' future and protect living wages.
Thank you. My next question will be, what should be the next steps to deal with the financial crisis for Bay Area Transit?
Transit is so important, and it's part of our future. But I think in our district, like the opening said, we're a suburb. So we have to recognize that most of our citizens and voters have cars. Transit is important, but I think we have to scale back some of the transit. We have big buses that go mostly unridden, okay? I think a smart, intelligent look at our whole transit area to kind of tweak it, have it where it's needed, but not have lines where we have empty buses. So the financial position in the transit area, I think, can be tweaked, where we move some of the routes and some of the drivers to some other areas. And I have an interesting idea. Maybe we can take some of our transit drivers for buses, for people going to work, and move them over to taking our children to school. So I see a lot of parents driving their kids to school, and an approved bus system for schools, which would be hopefully can be part of the transit system, would be a great idea. And those empty buses that we see on the road, we should maybe work on getting smaller buses and redefine some of the routes.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
It's a really important question. You know, during the pandemic, we saw ridership drop, and it hasn't come back fully. And so we have these transit systems that right now are underfunded. And they have come to us, the legislature, and they've asked us to bail them out over and over and over again. And that's because they are not currently fiscally sustainable. And so what truly needs to happen is we need to get to a transit system that is sustainable, where the ridership supports the assets. And that has to be part of the future. And we need to push our transit agencies to do exactly that. Part of that means having real hard conversations about the overhead. The number of transit agencies we have in the 9-county Bay Area, does it make sense? Do we need better coordination? How do we get to fiscally responsible entities? And I will say that we were asked by them to pass a bill that would have raised tolls on the bridges even further to support it. I absolutely stood up and made public statements in strong opposition to that. We cannot have our workers who are going in person, who sometimes are our low-wage workers. A lot of our white-collar workers are at home on their computers working remotely these days. They cannot be funding systems that are not fiscally sustainable. And so that's the pressure that we need to put on them.
Thank you so much. Let's talk about a sensitive topic. Do you feel that Proposition 36 is a correct approach to community crime problems?
Yes. I think that's one of our number one issues is public safety. And I think our Assembly member Bauer-Kahan, I think, agrees that public safety is probably the number one thing that we must look at as leaders of the community. And Prop 36 makes some important corrections to Prop 47, Prop 57, AB 109, all those bills. I mean, there's two props in one bill, but Prop 36 makes some bold corrections that we definitely need. You see the news easily in San Francisco, in Oakland, but in our own district, we have retail theft at a higher scale that I've ever seen in my 50 years in the district. So Prop 36, it's not perfect, but it makes some very important changes.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Mr. Roubaix is right. I think that my number one job is to show up in Sacramento and protect the families that I represent every day. I'm a mom. I think public safety could not be more important. And whether that means the retail theft that we're talking about, which has been on the rise in Walnut Creek and San Ramon and elsewhere, or the mental health crisis. Our kids need to be safe. And so how do we do that? And we've taken steps this year to improve the situation with retail theft, passed bills in the legislature to make sure there's more accountability. One of the key bills we did there that is so important for the Bay Area was it used to be you couldn't aggregate the amount someone stole in a retail setting across counties. Well, I shop in both Alameda and Contra Costa. I'm sure that's true of Mr. Roubaix as well. So that's a silly rule that we changed this year. So making sure we're updating the law to ensure accountability in all its ways is critical for our communities. They want to and they deserve to feel safe.
Thank you. And I'm going to continue asking you another question. With recent judicial reversal to the state laws on gun safety, what are your ideas for keeping our schools and communities safe? We're talking about concealing carry guns and one gun per month.
Yeah, so before I became a legislator, as a volunteer with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, gun violence prevention is one of the top priorities for keeping our communities safe, which we were just talking about. And so California has done a lot to lead. One of the most critical things California actually does is we have a center at UC Davis that studies the laws we pass, that shows the data-driven answers to preventing gun violence. Now, the past few years have been rough because some of our laws have been rolled back by the activist Supreme Court, and we continue to push forward to make sure that we are putting sensible gun violence prevention laws into place here in California, because we've got to make sure the guns are not in the hands of the wrong people. So making sure our red flag laws are in place so you can take guns from unsafe people, but also that they're being enforced. We need to continue to ensure that the Attorney General has the resources to make sure those guns are out of the hands of the people who shouldn't have them. And we will continue to do everything we can, because the answer is not our kids learning to hide in school. That is traumatizing for them, and we both know as parents that that's what's happening in our schools. They should be safe, and we should make sure guns are not in the hands of the people who can harm them.
Thank you. Joseph?
Yes, I agree 100% with Assembly Member Bauer-Kahan. Cutting to the chase, I think we both believe overall in the Second Amendment, but cutting to the chase, and Assembly Member Bauer-Kahan mentioned it, those red flag laws. We need to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. And one part of the red flag laws that maybe is overlooked is the supporting of the police and the carrying out of getting those guns outside. There is a big list of people that have guns that should not have guns through our current laws. It's a very dangerous job for the police to go get those guns. So anything we can do, any legislation we can pass to support the police and getting the guns away from the people that should not have guns. And then I just want to touch a little bit about safety. You're right, we don't want to traumatize our children, but there's some simple things that I see at the elementary school that my daughters go to. One's going there now and one was there. We secured the campus. Not all campuses can be secured, but I think it's a very important thing to secure our campuses. They're the most special assets that we have, special things in our lives. And anything we can make simple. There was a gate here and a gate there that the community the parents got together and put into Alamo Elementary. I think we should be on that for every school that we can be.
What are the same issues as Senator Glazer has prioritized you will planning to keep working on?
Because some recent issues?
Yes.
Okay. Boy, I think we agree in so many things, in just different ways. We just talked about Prop 36, okay, and public safety. Any public safety issue is so important. I think too, we talk about climate crisis. I don't think we have a crisis, but I think we should do everything we can to have clean water for everybody, to have clean air for everybody. I love the EVs for the clean air part of it. And tying that together with what we do as we go forward, if we want clean air, if we want to have more people using solar and electricity, I'm in the appraising business, and I see a lot of new construction with electric hot water heaters. But we need to look at the future of our energy. We have, and how we get energy to supply for the EVs and supply for all the electric things we're doing.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, we've talked about the climate crisis. I think that will remain top of mind. As a former environmental lawyer and a mom of 3 kids that are inheriting this planet, it's always a priority. Public safety will always be a priority. But in addition to those things, I think it's really important we focus on the affordability crisis in California. It is hard to live here, and it shouldn't be. And as a mom of a teenager, I know how expensive milk is. So we've got to make sure that we can drive down prices for energy, for gas, for groceries, for the things, for housing, the things people need to live every day. And so one of the things that is critical in that is supporting our small businesses, making sure we have competition in the marketplace. For anyone who has an independent gas station in their community, they know it's cheaper than the chains. So how do we make sure that we're supporting those businesses to make sure there's competition that drives prices down? I also think that at this moment in time, it couldn't be more important that we defend our democracy. And that is something, you mentioned Senator Glazer, that he has really led in, making sure we have a free press that keeps people informed through things like this, that we have the information we need to make good, informed decisions, and our democracy is sound. It's the principles that make this nation great and that we need to continue. And then the fundamental rights that have been so critical that we see being rolled back. As a woman, there's no question that my rights have been taken away. And fighting for access to health care, including abortion, is something that I will do every day as the Assembly member.
Thank you so much. In the recent years, changes in federal policies have led California to enact its own legislation to maintain the status quo. If that becomes the situation in the next few years, which policies would you be concerned with?
You know, I think it's really important that we continue to move California forward as a leader in this nation. And, you know, we don't know what the future holds. When I was elected 6 years ago, I couldn't have told you I was going to be an Assembly member in the middle of a global pandemic. So as I ask for people to support me to move forward, one of the things I always say is we don't know what the future holds, but we know what our values are. And it's critically important that we lead every day with the values of this district, the values of protecting our kids, their future, this beautiful environment, the safety, the schools, everything we've talked about. And so that is what I will do. I will show up every day to lead with those values, to make sure I'm fighting for this community, and make sure that we continue to show the world what is possible here in California.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. I agree with the gist of everything that you were saying. Can I touch a little bit about the cost of living? And I think the Assembly member is correct. We have to reduce the restrictions or the limits on small business. And as we move forward, the less government intrusion, the better, and the less where we are kind of dividing ourselves, the better. I believe that we all want to work together. We all want our democracy to be great, but I don't see the government telling us that one side is anti-democracy and the other side is not. I don't think that helps us work on democracy together, okay? And getting back to the cost of living overall, which is a big thing, the best way is to let the free market operate. The free market will bring us out will produce products at the best prices. That I see the state legislature not doing when it comes to rent control, when it comes to minimum wage. I think those things have initially good intentions, but they hurt our economy and they raise prices. Obviously, with minimum wage, a business can't survive. They can't pay its employees. Either they have to let some employees go, and they have to raise prices. So there's a number of things that the state legislature can do to get out of the way of the free market.
Thank you. How do you plan to promote small business and workforce development? Here,
I'm gonna start with Mr.
You want to start?
Yes, well, we can kind of add to where we're going. The free market, small businesses. I'm in the real estate appraising business. My brother and I have a small business for the last 30 years. We only have 2 employees, but what small businesses, what I do know, what small business that even have 2 employees have a lot of state regulations that they have to follow. Regulation is good overall, but the state could be in a process of reducing regulation to help small businesses blossom. And again, I mentioned rent control. I mentioned minimum wage. Those are things that are affecting the overall market, and we should stay away from those.
Thank you.
Small businesses are the largest employer in California. Our economy isn't healthy if our small businesses aren't healthy. And one of the things I know as an attorney who practiced law and represented businesses is it is hard to hire attorneys. It's expensive to have an HR department attorneys, and many of our small businesses don't have that. And so I have held the line in often saying regulation is good, but our small businesses need a different path because they don't have the ability to understand our complex regulations and comply. And so I passed a really important bill when we did paid family leave, which is really important. Everyone needs to care for their family, that put small businesses on a different path, that gave them the government support to ensure they were complying. They had the resources to ensure that there was no extra litigation for them, because one lawsuit against a small business can mean their doors closing. And so we have to protect them because our economies are better, our communities are better when our small businesses thrive.
Thank you so much. I would like to have my last question will be about low-income families and minorities. How do you propose that Bay Area will support and take care of these people that need help?
Yes. Well, equalize the playing field. And I have to jump back to the minimum wage. When we raise the minimum wage, a lot of small businesses have to decide who they're going to hire and how many people they hire. When they're forced to pay a certain wage, they will pick maybe one of three people, and they have to let the other three go. And the ones that are let go are typically the newest people, the people that have less than the person that they keep. And so I think what I read, that when you raise the minimum wage, you may help one person, but then you send two people into poverty. So something like that. Rent control sounds nice too, but if a builder, owner of a building cannot raise the rent to market, then either the building starts getting not maintained as it should, and the people are not going to build new buildings, new apartments. And so we're going to reduce the number of units that we have available, and therefore prices of the buildings we have will go up.
Thank you so much.
It is so important that we create a Bay Area where there's opportunity for all. And one of the number one things we need to do here is create housing for everybody. There is no question that the housing prices have gotten out of control. People's kids can't come home and live near their grandparents, which is the age-old tradition of raising families together. We need to get back to that, and housing affordability has to be a piece of that, which means ensuring that we're building housing that provides opportunity for everybody. And I have to say that one of the things that is so critical about this job and is so important as we support people who need more support is listening. So I'll continue to do what I've done for 6 years and listen to what our community needs, how I can support them, and how I can deliver in Sacramento.
Thank you to both of today's candidates for being here to answer questions about the big issues confronting constituents. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. Rebecca.
Thank you so much. I want to reiterate my gratitude to you, to CCTV, to the League of Women Voters for putting this together, and to every single voter who is getting the information they need all the way down ballot to ensure you're voting for the people who will represent you, your family, and the values you hold dear. That is what is going to keep our democracy strong. So thanks for viewing. And I just want to say that I will continue to do what I promised to do 6 years ago, show up and vote my values. It has been an honor to represent you, and I want to continue to do it so that I can continue to move California forward. We've led the nation through some of the hardest times, whether that was the global pandemic, the affordability crisis, the insurance crisis, wildfires in our backyard, but we've also seen California do amazing things. We have held the line on ensuring access to reproductive health care, including abortion. We've shown that every vote matters, that we will protect the right to vote here in California, that we will show what is possible in democracy. One of the things that is incredible about Sacramento is we do work across the aisle. The Democrats and Republicans talk, we work together, and we produce results that help everyday Californians. And so my priorities haven't changed, and they won't change. And we'll be able to protect every single one of you, your families, and what you need to make sure you can afford your utility bill, to stand up to the special interests, whether that's big tobacco, big oil, or PG&E. We need to fight for your families. When I'm getting calls from constituents that have lived on a fixed income who can no longer afford their utility bill, we have a real problem. And I will continue to fight to lower those costs for you and to make sure you can live here and live the California dream, because California has proven and will continue to prove that we can protect our climate, we can do what is right, and we can make this a place where everyone is able to live.
Thank you so much. Joseph.
Yes, thank you so much. And again, thank you for viewing. It is so important for our democracy that when you go to a vote, you have some kind of feeling and some kind of education of who you're voting for. I want to kind of go over some priorities that I have. We talked about it already. Public safety. A big line item in the state budget is schools. I want to talk about that really quickly. And then overall, I want to talk about the fiscal state of California and financial responsibility. Public safety, Prop 36, we talked about it a little bit, is going to tweak some important things that have happened in the last 6 years, or actually since last 10 years, since 2014, when Prop 47 was passed. We need to curb the rampant retail thefts, also It talks about drugs and the explosion of fentanyl in our society. Get out, take a look at Prop 36. We need to encourage our state legislature to support tweaks to Prop 47 to curb those issues. Secondly, one of the largest budget items, if not the largest, is the budget for our schools. We have to protect our schools. We have to protect our students. We have to improve our school rating. Right now, we're in the bottom third of the nation in California. We should be the top. California should be the top schools. We should also ensure parents' rights in schools. We should keep any kind of political, assembly member mentioned special interest, any kind of special interest out of schools. We should teach our schools how education is for reading, writing, and arithmetic. Just in closing, talking about fiscal responsibility, our state just 2 years ago.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joseph. This concludes today's candidate roundtable for California State Assembly District 16. Once again, the candidates are Joseph Rubey and Rebecca Bauer-Kahan. For more information about the candidate, visit vote411.org. To view this broadcast online or to get more voting information, go to contracostavote.gov elections. I am Douglas Lezamera, host of CCC Noticias. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to vote on November 5th.